Welcome to TFP, the Theatrefolk podcast. I am Lindsay Price, resident playwright for Theatrefolk. Hello. I hope you're well. Thanks for listening. Today, it's another edition of our YouTube Fireside chat. But first, let's do some Theatrefolk news. So our April Spotlight newsletter is the last in our Himalayan trek through the work that is Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. I can't believe it's finally over, but the truth of the matter is, I could have done a part 4. I was not done talking about this play, but I raised the white flag. I had to move on for my sake and yours. So April is all about language, because let's face it, that is the stumbling block. When people, and this is all people, there are just as many adults who loathe Shakespeare as students. When people come across the language of Shakespeare, when they come up against it, they find it foreign, they find it dusty, they find it dry, they can't engage. And so they hit the brick wall, that is language, and then they stop. And they don't go any further. And the fact is, though, that language is a much smaller hurdle than you think. And once you surpass that hurdle, there is such an interesting world. I think the plays of Shakespeare are really awesome. And no, I do not care about the authorship issue. I do not care. I don't care. I like the plays. I'm going to continue to like the plays. And I don't know what it proves to dismantle and dissect their validity. So, boo-boo. There you go. You know, take that to the bank. And go get our newsletter all about the language of Romeo and Juliet. Lastly, where can you find this podcast? We post new episodes every Wednesday at theatrefolk.com and on our Facebook page and Twitter. You can find us on the Stitcher app, and you can subscribe to TFP on iTunes. All you have to do is search on the word Theatrefolk. Episode 6. It's time for another YouTube Fireside chat. There, I got a jingle now. Do you like that, Craig?
No. Was that the question you were going to ask me?
No, it's not the question. Okay. I don't know what came. I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. I decided to sing.
Well, you just watched all those videos, so now you're motivated to get on stage.
You know what? I am very excited.
You got your urchin on.
I got my urchin on. So, and what a lovely lead-in you have just given me, because today, for our use of YouTube Fireside Chat, we are going to look at a musical that I have been attached to for years, as in decades. I have the script from the original production. I have the tape cassette. That's right, I said it. I know I'm dating myself.
You know there's people listening who have no idea what that word means, tape cassette?
I know. That's what I just said. That means I'm old. I am from the time of tape cassettes, but so are you. So, nana boo boo to that too. So
I deny it.
I have the cassette from the original production. I have the music from the movie, which I also loved, and it was also the very first show that I saw on Broadway. And the show I'm talking about is Little Shop of Horrors. La la la. Da 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 da. So I'm all, see, yeah, you're right. I'm all jazzed up. Yeah. I got my jazz hands going. I'm bopping in my seat.
I wondered why you put the plant in front of the microphone.
So today we're actually going to look at different versions from one of the songs in the show, which I actually think is my favorite song in the show, and it is right up there with, it could be, it is in my top 5 favorite musical songs, not including Sondheim. I think out of the Sondheim realm, I think it is my favorite musical number. And the reason I get to pick it is because it's my podcast and I put them together, so I get to choose it. Although Craig, do you not think that if somebody has a musical that they want us to dissect on the YouTube Fireside Chat, they should let us know, don't you think?
Absolutely. We can be contacted through our website. Just click on the contact link at the top of the page and we'll have a look.
You're so smart. Okay, so, and I haven't even said the number. The number is Skid Row. Okay, so.
Is it called Skid Row? It's not called Downtown?
Oh, aren't you? I don't know. Down on Skid Row. I always thought it was called Skid Row.
Oh. Should we pause and find out?
Yeah, we should pause and find out.
So we've paused and we've looked this up on Wikipedia, and it turns out we were both wrong and both right. We actually, individually, we were wrong. Yes. But together, we were right, because the correct name of the song is Skid Row in brackets Downtown.
I think that means we're both right. I don't think that means we were wrong.
I'm saying individually we were wrong.
Together we are right.
Yes.
In everything.
Yes.
So I love this song because I think it's like a gem. It's like the whole world of the musical is in this song, and it's not even the opening song.
I was surprised to learn that.
But it's got like. It defines the world that they live in, Skid Row. It defines the conflict. It introduces us to, it gives us this musical introduction to Seymour and Audrey and what they want and what they desire.
And the place, it's like a classic opening number. I'm surprised it's not.
I love the words. I love the music. Okay, so that's me. So, Craig, do you have a decades-long relationship with this show, or when we saw it on Broadway, what was it, 2004? Is that your main memory of the show? What's your memory?
Well, I don't remember knowing it before the movie, and I was a huge SCTV fan when I was a kid, and so, I think I went because I knew it was a musical, and I was a theater nerd, and I was into musicals, but I'm not sure I really knew it before I saw it in the movie theater. I loved it when I saw it in the movie theater. I love Rick Moranis. And actually, I think despite, I guess we'll probably get into this, but despite his problems as a singer, I think he's awesome in the movie.
Oh, I love the movie. So let's start with the movie.
Okay.
That was your first primary experience with it. And
did you know it before you saw the movie?
I did know it before I saw the movie, but that's my first visual is, of course, the movie. All I had was I had the tape and I had the script. But seeing it first, movie. And to me, I just love the way that this particular song plays out in the movie. It is just an ensemble piece. Everybody's involved in Skid Row. I love it from its very first opening line where they have a woman, not part of the Urchin Trio, who, sings that, and I'm not going to do it. And she just looks like Skid Row, and she just pours everything into that opening line. And I love the way that the characters sort of walk and move.
Yeah.
Creating an atmosphere. I find it very genuine, which is pretty neat for a movie version.
Yeah, well, I think most movie adaptations of musicals and plays, they have... It's kind of an advantage they have, where they can actually take us to the real world in which the musical takes place. Now, for me, when I saw... Here's an example. When I saw Sweeney Todd, I thought that world was just too real. I didn't enjoy the movie because it was the Victorian London was too dirty, too gross, that I wasn't able to enjoy the fun of the piece.
Somebody said that about Les Mis too.
I haven't seen Les Mis yet.
No, but we heard the Broadway
I heard
podcast.
The same thing about Les Mis. Now I will say that I enjoyed the representation of Skid Row in this movie. I mean, it is dirty. It is gross. It looks like it looks like a dangerous place, and yet you also get the feeling that it's a movie set.
It's a movie set.
Yeah.
It looks like a set, and it is very much a mix between theater and movie, which may have hurt it. I don't think it did very well. I don't remember.
Oh.
But I think it's clearly we are living in a set world as opposed to we are living in the real world, which for me as a theater person, I like. I didn't mind that at all.
No, I think that's what I'm saying is that, yeah, I appreciate that they created I think it has to, see, the thing is, I think stuff has to live in a world.
Yes.
And so as long as the world is well established and consistent and works with the piece, then that works for me. And especially with a musical, I think, because there are so many unreal things that happen in a musical where people just all of a sudden start singing and music starts playing and people start dancing. Yeah. It's not a problem for me to accept that I'm watching a set.
And I'll tell you one thing about this particular thing I quite liked, and we're going to get to other versions where not so successful. The way that they approached the choreography in this was very, very not, hey, I'm all of a sudden going to do I'm a homeless person and I'm going to do a pirouette. It was very grounded in reality. It was lots of foot stomping and walking and just the downtroddenness of being in this place. And I thought it worked really well. There was never that, it was a musical number, and it was very clear everyone was acting in a theatrical way, and yet a lovely overlay of the realism of the place.
Yeah, it was the type of choreography I really like, where it's grounded in the reality of what's taking place. I mean, these are it wouldn't make any sense if all of a sudden, as you said, they started doing pirouettes and jetés across the stage. It just doesn't, in the context of the piece and the context of that song. What they're doing makes an awful lot of sense. There's a lot of that death march type.
Yes.
That walking,
very
that thump.
Much.
Thump. Everyone's walking they're walking in patterns.
Lots of shots of feet.
Yeah, like just like you would see in Skid Row as you're watching people going off to work, which is what's happening in the piece. Now, that all said, the one problem I had with it is that I found some of their patterns. If you watch, especially towards the end, they're kind of like these really weird random patterns where during the piece, they're focused, they're going somewhere, but at the end, when it's all kind of coming together, they're kind of in these random patterns, almost as if they're trying to hide the fact that they don't have that many performers available for the scene.
That's funny.
Yeah,
could be.
Have a watch of that.
Oh, I didn't see that. And I will say that when I was a teenager, not a child, a teenager, there's a little bit where Seymour goes into the alley and he's sort of not really confronted, but he meets up with the dangerous aspects of Skid Row. That little frightened me a little bit.
It did?
Yes, a little bit.
Goodness. Now, was this must have been close to the time of Thriller? Because there was a little bit of that to it. Okay, there's a little bit of zombie kind of thing to it. A
little bit. But then it really worked with the nature of the piece. It worked with the nature of the piece, and what we're going to get into a little bit, I'm almost thinking we should move on to that second theatrical, the Irish one, because we'll get to the Broadway one in a second. The reason I want to move on to this one is because we have a clip from a production, an Irish production, that really doesn't work at all in this song. And they do kind of the same things as the movie does. They have a large cast. Yeah. And they really, I can see someone in the production side, thinking about the death march kind of aspect of it and the downtrodden aspect of it, except they completely went in the wrong direction and went towards, listless singing, listless moving without any, purpose whatsoever.
Yeah. So we're in this section now?
Yes, let's do that.
I didn't write down too much about it, but this is what I did write down. Is that this is a perfect example of why every time you approach a piece, whether it's been done 1,000 times before or not, the first thing you do is you start with the material at hand. It doesn't matter how many times you've seen it, how many productions have been out there, what expectations you think the audience has of you. Always start with that book. And if they had done that and understood you have to get into what this song is about, what is happening, who these characters are. And I mean, that's what the song is about, who these characters are, where they are, and what's happening. You don't have to read too deeply into it. Then you bring everything out from that point, where I feel like what they did was looked at some videos, maybe the movie, and went, well, this bit of choreo would work for this part, this bit would work for this part. Now, we've got a bunch of people here, so I'll find some things for them to do, which is not at all a good way to approach it, because you get this kind, as you say, Lindsay, you get this kind of listless, unmotivated movement. And the same for the actors, too.
Oh, yeah.
let's pretend that a choreographer's given you something to do, that you have no idea why you're doing it. And maybe the choreographer doesn't have any idea why you're doing it, apart from you need to clear the stage for something else to happen.
You need to go downstage and do something.
Yeah, the actor needs to find that reason. Why am I going over here?
There's nothing that looks worse on stage than someone who gets up and moves, and it's so clear that it's the actor moving because they've been told to move and not character-driven movement.
Yeah, and that's my trouble with this particular piece, is I feel like you're just seeing that time and time again.
And then on top of that, and then they went right into very traditional, hey, we've got an ensemble on stage, let's do some dance moves, which didn't work at all. Yeah. It doesn't work. And then, so having said that, I think we're going to move right into the last piece that we saw.
Okay.
And then we'll go back to we'll end with the Broadway one, which we should always do. And this last piece is very short. It's just a section of the song, but really interesting choreo, like character-driven choreo, and someone who actually looked at the words of the song and thought and tried to come up with actions that fit.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. They've definitely created something quite unique and original. And you don't even have to do that, but they did that. And you can tell that they did their homework. They looked at the song, they analyzed it, they tried to figure out what's trying to be, what is being communicated through this song, and they put it into movement. They put it into pictures. You could freeze frame that video at any point, and you know exactly what is happening at any point, because they're creating tableaus throughout.
Absolutely. And another interesting thing too is that they did the original cast size, which is for this song is just the three urchins and the homeless man, and Mushnik is there, and for a lot of it, the urchins, they are singing in response to something that Mushnik has said to them. Yeah. But Mushnik, he sort of moves off to the side and they sing. The song takes over and they sing to the audience. In this production, they start off by singing that first stanza right to Mushnik.
At him.
Accusing tone, an accusing movement. I thought that was pretty neat. I mean, who's to say...
And it's not a choice you see every time, but it's a choice that makes sense in the context of the piece. That's why you go to the book.
That's right. And that's and it's always amazing when people don't. I find this song is so rich, lyrically and musically. It's a yearning. This is a yearning song. This is, I am in a place that's horrible and I am doing it, that's what hell, or no, that's insanity. You're doing the same thing over and over again. And expecting different results. Okay, nobody expecting different results here. They're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And nothing is changing. Nothing is happening. Thank you, Craig.
They're in an inescapable rut.
Awesome, we'll go with that. Okay. But they yearn for something different. And that leads quite nicely into the, we have just the audio of the song from the 2003 Broadway revival. And it was a lot of interesting things for me. So first of all, this one was very interesting to me because I was surprised when I went and saw it that they kept the original cast. And of course, cast size.
Oh, cast size.
Craig just made a face at me. Cast size. And of course they would. It was my naivete to think that just because, something like the movie or like every usual community theater production, they, have a cast of thousands. But of course, they were going to keep it as is.
Yeah.
And to me, for this song, that had positive and negative feelings. Because I'm just so attached, and this is my attachment, I'm so attached to the large-scale ensemble. Oh, the feeling of Skid Row worked for me so much better with so many more people that to have 4 sing doesn't quite work for me. And I found it very kind of musically straight up and down, and I didn't get quite the same emotional attachment to it until we heard from Seymour and Audrey. And when Seymour and Audrey came in, then my feelings toward it did a complete 180 because I found they really, as good actors do, were addressing the emotional yearning and the emotional side of the song.
What I like about this interpretation of the song is how peppy it feels. There's emphasis. There's it's hard to describe. There's an emphasis on each bar. It's a very peppy kind of vibe to it that I think was probably imposed by the director Jerry Zaks because it kind of the whole production had that kind of feel. Is that
Yes.
da 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 da, like those downbeats were like hard,
Very hard.
yeah, and and I mean,
And crisp.
Uptown, you cater to a million jerks. Uptown, your messengers and mailroom clerks.
in Seymour's, you can hear Seymour's anger and desperation in his solo in the piece, which to contrast with Rick Moranis. Rick Moranis comes across more as just a downtrodden nebbish victim who doesn't really seem to fit into Skid Row. Whereas the Seymour that we saw, Hunter Foster, he is a nebbish, he is a downtrodden guy, but he's a product of Skid Row too.
Yes.
He has lived his whole life in this situation.
And I'd also like to say, on a completely unrelated note, because we hear a little bit of Audrey in this version, and I remember thinking, and when we saw the Audrey in this production, that she really held her own, because the Audrey in the movie is, of course, Ellen Greene from the original production.
She's the iconic.
She is the iconic Audrey, and she's the copied Audrey, and it's very hard to get away from her Audrey. And I thought that the 2003 production did quite a lovely job of making Audrey her own character.
Yeah, those are the two toughest roles, I think, for anyone to approach is Seymour and Audrey, because they're so well established with, I think, Rick Moranis and Ellen Greene.
Yeah, you think so?
Well, who else for the?
We don't know. That's right. But they're very symbolic, iconic characters, in that way, and on purpose, because that's the way that the musical is written. All right, so this was a real treat for me. First of all, I'm never tired. When I realized when we were listening to these, I do not tire of this song. I will never tire of this song. I love it, and it was so interesting doing the research for the song and coming up with different versions. And there are as many different versions as there are, drops of water in the ocean. What's that expression? Something like that. Oh, Craig just gave me another look again.
I'm going to check my Zen handbook here.
There was one where the urchins were white and Jersey Girl like, and it's just all so interesting how people interpret things for right or for wrong, right?
Yes.
I think that's a good place to end our chat.
Okay.
This was a good one.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to say?
I loved did you enjoy the show that we saw?
Because
I think about it and I talk about it all the time.
You know what? I have the worst memory I have a horrible memory from my past, and that particular experience has always stayed with me. That was 10 years ago, almost. Yeah. It was 2004, and we're in 2000. So okay, 9 years ago, and of course, I have a very clear memory at the end of that show. Audrey 2 leaps,
kept growing and growing, and it was biting people in the audience.
It moved, the plant moved 10 rows out into the audience, which is where we were sitting. And I also remember that one of the Audreys was puppeteered by the same person who did Snuffleupagus.
Yes, we saw Snuffleupagus live on stage.
We saw it. I quite like that too. No, I thought it was... it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Yeah. I think that's, you see, when you see a show like that, you see why the small cast works so nicely. That there was that little, forget the character's name, but there's the one guy who plays a bunch of parts.
Yeah.
And the way the script is, it's kind of a showpiece because he keeps coming in as different characters over, like in a circle, almost in a circle. It's this crazy little section that shows you why it's like that.
Yeah. No, I think it's a wonderful show. And this is a wonderful song.
And don't feed the plants.
And don't
whatever
feed the plants.
They
whatever you do. Whatever they offer you. And whatever they offer you, don't feed the do-do-do-do-do-do. Okay, Craig's looking at me again.
I'm just imagining the music playing, so.
That's where we're going to end. Take care, my friends. Take care.